All right, episode 20 of Reviewing Your Customs. We've got movie-themed, comic book-themed, anime-themed, and much more in store for you guys today. So let's go ahead and dive right in. All right, first up, we've got a pair from Nomad Hits. All right, let's see. Friday the 13th. Sweet, and the other shoe, ooh-wee, I see my boy McCready. We've got a great 80s horror movie themed concept here. One shoe being Friday the 13th, and the other shoe being based around John Carpenter's The Thing. Alright, I gotta be honest, these are easily two of my favorite horror movies from that decade, so I am absolutely in love with this design. And the first part that really stands out to me is just how well these two very separate designs that don't have anything to do with one another still come together to create one cohesive design between the two shoes. And that's because of how you decided to balance everything out. For example, here on the toe boxes, you have both of the movie posters. On the inside panels of the shoes, you have the huge branding with Friday the 13th on one, The Thing on the other, and that's stretching across multiple different panels. On the outside of the Jason shoe, you have a huge portrait of him, and you turn the swoosh into a bloody machete. Great touch there. And then for the Thing shoe, you have Kurt Russell's character holding up the flamethrower. Custom Jumpmans on the tongue tags, and just being that these are, like I said, totally separate designs. Friday the 13th being a summer camp slasher, and The Thing being a movie that's, I believe, takes place in Antarctica. It's meant to be cold and frozen, so they're polar opposites in terms of temperature too. I mean, this is just an awesome job with how you laid everything out. The shoe that's based around The Thing features some very, very clever stencil work, something that I haven't seen very often, where if you're just looking at the upper, it almost seems like you might be looking at a gradient, where near the midsole it's very white, near the top it's a lot more of a deep royal blue. And I don't think that there's actually a gradient from light to dark here. I think that there's actually just a gradient in how you started to lay in this texture stencil. And quite frankly, that's not something that you see very often, but I think it works perfectly here for where you're trying to invoke a feeling of cold, snow, desolate, just empty space that the movie makes you feel. Over here on the Friday theme shoe, there's some really clean gradients where you added in some of that blue for the night sky to put Jason in the woods, put all of the silhouettes of the trees right in front of him, and you definitely captured the setting here. White laces on one of them, black laces on the other, white sock liners, black sock liners. Again, just another great example of how you really balanced everything out on these. I'm always a fan of when the character design can actually interact with the swoosh. I do think the only downside to it here is that the McCready character ends up being a little bit smaller than I think he could have been on this design. I think that if he could have been scaled up a bit, essentially even let the top of his hair run onto this collar panel, I do think he could have had a much more commanding presence here on the shoes. Jason, I think, fits a little bit better on his shoe, but something that I would have liked to have seen done here, especially considering how well we could tell you were able to incorporate airbrush stencils onto the other design. Even if it's just incorporating a little bit more into that night sky, I think that could have gone a long way here. And then for the Friday the 13th logo on the insides of the shoes, since that red pops out so much, I think this could have been a cool opportunity to really just try and dirty, grungy that area up, maybe even have some blood dripping down or include more of that blood splatter. Let's just try and dirty that up. I think that that would be a nice touch here. But overall, this is an absolutely tremendous job at tying together two very distinct themes into one cohesive design, and I'm a huge fan of how these turned out, man. So great job. All right, next up, we've got a pair from 316 Custom Footwear. All right, let's see. Hey Dillon, thank you so much for selecting my shoes. I'd just like to give a little bit of info about the design. I wanted the shoes to encapsulate the whole character of Miles in the movie, but I didn't want to overwhelm by adding everything I possibly could. I kept it simple with the black and red colorway. I tried to add a little bit of a spray painted feel by going outside the lines with my black, similar to his gloves in the movie. I painted the swooshes with some of my favorite elements in the movie, the glitch effect, graffiti, Ben Ray dots, and the galaxy effect with the bubbles from the collider. And of course, I had to include the leap of faith scene somewhere, so I thought the heel tab was the perfect place for it. Again, I'm absolutely honored that you chose to review these. Thank you for everything that you do for the custom shoe community. I hope you enjoy them. Jesse. P.S. I definitely plan to come back to the DCF experience, hopefully soon. See you there. Thanks, Jesse. Oh man, I am excited to check these out. Wow. Whew. Man, this is killer. This is killer. But like you said, right away, let's get right into that leap of faith scene. That is awesome, man. This is the perfect place for them, as you mentioned. On the other shoe, you also have the "Hello, my name is Spider-Man" name tag. This is one of those designs where, honestly, I'm not entirely sure how you did it. I mean, these are packed wall to wall with details throughout the entire shoe, but yet somehow it still has this really clean and not overly chaotic feel to them. I love how on a majority of the upper, where you have these red and black panels, you did some very subtle airbrushing where you have a really cool pattern that helps emulate the suit. All of the logos that you added onto these turned out great. I love the eyes on the toe boxes along with that blue lightning flowing through them. Spider-Man logos on the tongue tags are another great touch. And I can't get over how cool all of these swooshes turned out. Every single swoosh is something different on these. You've got the dot pattern one on the outside of the right shoe, along with those text blocks nearby. But I think my favorite one has to be on the inside of the left shoes, where you have this graffiti pattern one, and then you went in and airbrushed the outline of the swoosh. And that's not easy to do with that type of color either. The gradient right here on the Leap of Faith painting, where we go from dark to light, turned out absolutely immaculate. And I think it was a great touch how you mentioned you intentionally airbrushed or colored outside the lines on some of the panels. Really adds a cool effect to these. There's a few spots around the blue outline on the Spider-Man name tag that I think could use a little bit of darkening up. There's some paint on the midsole that could easily be scraped right off. And then I think that for all of these red panels, the edge surrounding it should be red as well. But overall, man, holy cow, this is a awesome take on the Miles Morales Into the Spider-Verse theme, and I don't even know how to properly describe these other than this feels like 5 pounds of potatoes somehow crammed into a 1 pound bag, and yet it still feels like it's only 1 pound. I mean, these don't feel overwhelming in any way, but yet these are jam-packed with details throughout. Everywhere you look, you're just going to constantly find new things. So love how these turned out. Great job by you, man. Alright, next up we've got a pair from 6 Train Kicks. Little note here, Dillon open here. Can't mess that up, right? Alright. DeJesus Custom Footwear. Thank you for critiquing my anime customs. I've learned so many techniques from watching your videos over the years. The idea for these sneakers was to incorporate 4 different animes. These were the top 4 animes voted for by my followers. Again, thank you for your critique, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say. These sneakers are size 10 and they are for sale for anybody interested. Definitely well packaged with the little bags included for them. Alright, so as you mentioned, we've got 4 different animes incorporated throughout the uppers of these. Starting off with the outside of the right shoe, we have Goku along with that Dragon Ball Z logo. On the inside of that shoe, we have Naruto along with the Naruto logo. Then for the outside of the left shoe, we have what I believe is Tanjiro, I think is his name, along with the Demon Slayer logo. And then on the inside of that one, we have, I believe his name is Zoro, along with the One Piece logo. So it was definitely a smart choice for how you laid out your characters near the backs of the shoes, where you're working with a much taller region, and then you incorporated all of the logos on that mudguard panel. Those fit really well right there. Taking a closer look at some of your character and logo work, I actually think you made some very fascinating decisions, how you let some of the logos just stretch onto some of the other panels, even onto the midsole a little bit. Even if you take a look at his foot down here, you can see it just slightly extends onto that midsole. Same thing with his fingers, how they just slightly extend ever so slightly onto this yellow panel. I think you made a conscious decision to incorporate that throughout your entire design, and I really dig making a choice like that and standing behind it. Some of the small little details within your character work can be tightened up over time. Things like line work and shading, those are the types of things that are really going to bring these characters to life. But the foundation for them is absolutely there, and I can tell by taking a closer look at some of the tiny little details, like in Naruto's face, for example. So if you take a closer look at his eyes, it would have been really easy to accidentally end up with these eyes placed right where the two panels overlap. The white overlaps into the orange, and when you do stuff like that with your character's key features, that's when you can really start to distort your image. So I could tell that you made sure not to let that happen here. And although I do think that the overall design for these was meant to be very simple, I do think that on some of these solid color panels, there's definitely another level we can go to, whether that's incorporating more elements from the source material, maybe doing something like cartoon outlines around them, maybe incorporating some other pattern from the show. I know that with Demon Slayer, a lot of people like to incorporate that green checkered pattern that you could have easily incorporated throughout some of these green panels. Just little things like that will really help take this theme to another level. And of course, without fail, I've always got to point out that you definitely want to go back, touch up all of your edges, and just try to give these as clean of a look as possible. But overall, this is a really fun, clean, simple design where you incorporated a lot of different characters, a lot of different logos. Really dig how these turned out. Great job by you, man. Alright, next up from across the pond, we've got Oz Custom. Alright, hi Dillon, thank you for the opportunity. I'm a big fan of your work, and without you sharing your knowledge, I wouldn't be customizing sneakers. Thank you, Oz Custom. Holy... what on earth? Oh my god. This does not seem real. Holy cow. This is... Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Look at... oh my god. You gotta be kidding me. Look at the detail here. What on... that is... holy cow, that shouldn't be possible. Dang. This is one of those times where I definitely wish I was more familiar with the source material, so I could probably appreciate some more of the details that's incorporated into some of this imagery that I imagine comes from the comics. But you don't need to know a damn thing about anything to just look at these and question, a human painted these? That is unreal. I mean, just take a look at this skull throne that Spawn is sitting on, for example. There is so many tiny little details packed into each and every one of these faces. Look at all of this detail that's packed into his robe or costume. I mean, wow. On the inside of that same shoe, there's this drawing that has this very, very unique perspective looking up at the character that it's drawn from. And if you look at all of the detail that you packed into the chain, how it's very large right here, but yet as you follow it up and the chain continues to get smaller and smaller, it's so amazing how you still manage to pack just as much detail into every single one of these chain links. I also love how you did some of the panels, such as the mudguard, for example, with this oversized chain effect. I think that it fits perfectly there. But I want to take a quick moment to highlight what I think is one of the most clever and smart design choices that I've seen in quite a while. So you have this chain effect that's done on the mudguard and eye stay panel with one panel in between them. And you decided to quite literally link those panels together by adding one extra chain link between them. It would have been very easy to just let this entire panel be that red background or something entirely different. But to let one chain link quite literally connect them and extend onto both of them, I think was just such a fantastic choice with that really cool skull right on top. Love that little detail of how that area of the shoes turned out. I think that this entire portal effect behind Spawn turned out amazing. I love the glows on his hand, and I love how just a little bit of that green glow from the portal bleeds right onto the side of his face right there. The custom leather tongue tags with the logos, bright neon green laces, and spikes running throughout the toe box are just a few more of the tiny little details that add to the overall theme of this piece. On the inside of this shoe, I love that you decided to incorporate some of these comic strips. Definitely helps add to the overall theme, and all of this artwork right here, you can't even tell that it's constantly stretching across all of these different panels. I mean, this image right here alone is stretching across, I don't know, 6 or 7 different panels, making your job that much harder to really get in and pack in all of those details, but you did such a great job with it. I love the choice to incorporate just a few bricks here and there in some of those black areas. Not sure if that was your choice or if that's from the source material, but nonetheless, it works very well to still give some of that artwork a little bit of room to breathe. So overall, I don't even have words for these. I mean, this might be the most detailed shoe that I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, I think that I know that if I went up and asked most people, they wouldn't even believe that something like this is painted. I mean, this is just truly on a different level. I mean, overall, this is just a fantastic job by you, and this is truly a masterpiece. So great job, man. Now, if you enjoyed seeing all of this amazing artwork featured here today, and you're considering getting started on your own custom sneaker journey, but you're not sure which mistakes you need to avoid when starting out, make sure you go ahead and check out this video next. Alright guys, everybody get out there and just create.